Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. My name is Terrick El-Guindy with the Mr. Olympia. Today we have the official Mr. Olympia report. I'm here with President of the Mr. Olympia, Dan Solomon. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Terrick, it's good to be at Olympia World Headquarters with you today.
Dan, I have a question for you. We just got done with the 60th Olympia, and many people on stage and off stage believe this was one of the most epic Mr. Olympias. You had a relationship with Joe Weider. You knew the man. And at some point during that show, or maybe after that show, you reflected and you probably asked yourself, did I do good, Joe? Are you proud of me? Talk to me a little bit about this tremendous success and what it means to give back to Joe, who trusted you.
Yeah, so there was a lot of moments throughout 2024 where I'd ask myself, what would Joe think of all of this? And it started earlier in the year when the city of Las Vegas presented us with the key to the city. And the entire community came out, the mayor, they were all there to celebrate what the Olympia meant, what bodybuilding meant to their city. Now, keep in mind, this is a city that puts on the biggest events in the world. The Super Bowl comes there, and to be a part of that and to be recognized in that light was humbling, and it was really powerful. And then fast forward to what you're talking about, the 60th Olympia. I know when Jake and I started this crusade together about 5 or 6 years ago, we had certain goals. And at the center of all of it was the need to connect with bigger audiences, to raise the bar, to challenge fans to expect more. When people criticize us for elements of what we do, we take that as a badge of honor because it means their expectations are higher than they've ever been. When we first put on our first show, when I took this position as president of the Olympia, we took a massive step forward in our stage production and the over-experiential component of all aspects of the Olympia. It moved forward in a big way, and people were excited about it. And with each passing year, the bar has risen and risen. And now the fans are expecting more and more, and the burden is on us to continue to deliver more and more. So to answer your question about the Joe Weider element and carrying around the legacy of Joe, and of course, when you're in this building here where we are right now, there's so many reminders of Joe, and every single day I get up early and I stay up late and I think throughout the day, what would Joe do in this, or what would Joe think about this? And it means everything to me because I get to speak on occasion to Betty Weider, who's still with us. And Betty, of course, was at the table with Joe and Ben when the Olympia started. And Betty will tell stories about how Joe envisioned the future of the sport. And it wasn't too long ago that she looked at me, and I'll never forget it. And she said, Joe would be blown away by this. He'd be so proud of the fact that we, us, me, Jake, our team, had the courage to test boundaries that a lot of people would have been afraid to test. There's certain components of what we do that require a lot of risk, massive expenditure. And we do it, and we do it with a level of obligation and responsibility, not just to the Olympia, but to the entire sport of bodybuilding. And that's what makes the Olympia unique. The Olympia doesn't just function as an event. It functions as the central artery of an entire industry, of the entire sport. So when the Olympia raises the bar, you see other promoters, other events also raise the bar. When the Olympia raises prize money, you see other events raise prize money. And we take that responsibility as the standard bearer very seriously. And to have put on the 60th Olympia and for it to have gone off the way that it did, we lit up the Las Vegas Strip. We marked the arrival of the sport in a way that it had never been marked before. And it was the ultimate celebration of all the things that we all do, that you do, that we do, that bloggers do, that judges do, that photographers do, that event producers do. Anybody who has their fingers in certain parts of what we do, whether you are an athlete or you are a judge or whatever you do to connect yourself with this lifestyle, with this community, with this industry, with this business, everyone was proud that day. And that is something that I will never, ever forget. And I would love to be able to sit with Joe and have a conversation with him about what we can do next. Because remember, Joe Weider was the one back in 1951 or July of 1950, I think, where he put out in Your Physique magazine, which was one of his first magazines, his predictions for what the future would hold and that the world would embrace bodybuilding. This was at a time when there was no real organizational bodybuilding, right? It was just kind of getting going. And he made a bold prediction back then.
Well, I got to be honest. I talked to some of the judges, and they said, Terrick, my favorite part was Bruce Buffer. He was just incredible. I talked to Samson Dowda after the show. He said, Terrick, the increased prize money is awesome, but the golden sandow is forever. You know, it's the thing that I will tell, you know, everybody that I love, that I have. You know, Ronnie Coleman was saying, I had never been on stage with Lee Haney celebrating an award. This was the first time I've done this with Lee Haney, who won 8. So it was epic. I was part of it, and I'm so glad. But like you said, Joe Weider would have asked, Dan, what is next? He would have come to you and said, this was a great job. I'm proud of you, but what is next? Tell us, what is next? Are we staying in Las Vegas? Are we going back to Orlando? What are the plans? What is your vision?
So for each of the last 6 years, each year we've had to hit the reset button, right? Whether we were going from Vegas to Orlando or back to Vegas or Planet Hollywood or Resorts World or the Las Vegas Convention Center or the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando or the Hyatt, or we have moved and we have moved. And every time we've done that, it's forced us to hit reset. We have not ever had the luxury in the last 6 or 7 years to hit redo. And when you hit redo, it allows you to grow and take things to a whole nother level. Well, this year, we decided that that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go back to Resorts World, a tremendous home for the Olympia. A lot of people who came to the event, they got to experience that next level environment, what Resorts World was able to do. We basically built an entire pavilion, attached it to the property, and put on much of the Olympia experience within that. Right across the street, the Las Vegas Convention Center, it was a tremendous home for our expo that has grown significantly. And then there at Resorts World in the theater, the same theater that hosts some of the biggest acts in the world, welcomed the Olympia. And we were able to see the visceral experience that the Resorts World was able to create for our fans. And most importantly, Resorts World has the ability to proclaim and announce the arrival of an event within the entire city like no other property. When you walk down the strip in Las Vegas and you see all the Olympia imagery and the live videos, we even had our final pose down and the announcement of our winners aired live on the side of Resorts World for the entire city of Las Vegas to watch in real time. It was happening. So for that reason, we have decided that we are going to go back to Las Vegas. We're going to go back to Resorts World. We're going back to the Las Vegas Convention Center, and we are going to take what we did last year for the 60th, and we're going to take it up to a whole new level. And we're going to do things in a really big way. But it's not just about taking the production to another level. It's not just about increasing prize money. We do that every year, okay? It's about bringing more corners of the fitness lifestyle. It's about bringing wellness. It's about bringing longevity. It's about bringing anti-aging. It's about bringing all these other elements of the world and these innovations and these technologies and all these things. You're going to see that reflected at this year's Olympia in a way you've never seen it before. And that's a big part of why I'm excited. You're going to come to the Olympia. You're going to see the best in the world compete. You're going to see the largest prize money by far play out on that stage. You're going to see a tremendous expo, but you're also going to see new technologies, new innovations, new parts of the overall commitment to longevity and fitness and healthy living and wellness. And that's going to be one of the big differences this year when you come to the Olympia.
Now, you mentioned the expo, right? And obviously we went through COVID. We still put on the show. And I give you tremendous credit because, you know, 50 days prior to the Mr. Olympia, you said, guys, if we're not going to have audience, let's go to Orlando. I need to have an experience that the audience feels this is alive, right? The expo this year was possibly one of the best expos. From the sponsors to the people that were there, they said, Terrick, the energy was different. What do you think happened? Why do you think the expo was so successful this past year?
We're very fortunate to have impactful sponsors, impactful partners, and also culturally diverse sponsors. When you look at the Olympia logo, the Olympia, of course, this year was title sponsored by Newtek, the largest equipment company in Korea. One of the presenting sponsors, Integral Medica, the largest supplement company in Brazil. This year we have some other very large companies that are coming on board. And I really think when you take their resources and when you take the cultural diversity that they bring, combined with a lot of emerging categories, we're starting to see bring it all together. And it just creates something that feels different. It sounds different. It's a very different experience. And sometimes you can't always map it out. Sometimes you just got to put it out into the universe and see what you get back. Well, our sales team, our group that brings exhibitors and sponsors to the event, they work very hard throughout the entire year. It's a very small team, but there is no group, certainly in the United States. There are some around the world that do a really good job, but in the United States, there is no group that has managed to bring the level of economic impact to an expo the way that our team does. And with those economic impacts, it enables us to do things experientially. It enables us to bring a caliber of sponsor. It's not just about quantity, it's about quality. And that's something that we really have worked hard on.
Now, Dan, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. You know, you mentioned that sometimes when people criticize, you take it as a badge of honor.
Sure.
And you responded to some criticism about the timing of the Olympia. And it turned out that the timing of this Mr. Olympia was flawless, was perfect. There's not anything anybody can say. What do you have to say about the production, the precisiveness of this event? Is that something we can count on for years to come?
You know, it's an interesting thing because we really work hard to listen to the feedback. We do. But there's a lot of hypocrisy that goes on. Some of the same people that will talk about the importance of growing the event, bringing more money into the event, will also criticize the things that we do and will suggest things that actually make the event feel smaller. So in my role, it's important to make the choices that I think are going to appeal to the largest audience, allow us to connect with the biggest brands, because at the end of the day, the fiscal success of the event is what allows us to grow. It's what allowed us to present nearly $2 million in prize money at this year's Olympia. To give you some context, there is no fitness or bodybuilding event in the world that has ever even given away $1 million. And we gave away nearly $2 million this year. That's an idea. And in order to continue to raise that bar and to bring in more prize money and to grow the event, we have to make choices that sometimes aren't always popular, choices that are going to make the Olympia more desirable to big companies, to big brands, to people who are spending big money and they're coming from a long way around the world to be a part of it. We have to make those choices. And I know one of the topics that often comes up is the Friday night show and where we place the men's open prejudging in the Friday night show. That's a huge topic. Everybody wants to talk about that, right? And for many years, we put it on at the end of the night. And we would do that because the idea was that we would place it there because you want to keep the building full for as long as possible, because we know that's a big draw, right? The men's bodybuilding, everybody wants to see, you know, Derek and Samson and Hadi battle it out, and they see that at the end of the night. So everybody stays in their seats and they watch, and the more full the building is, the better look it is for everybody, the event, the sponsors, the exhibitors, everybody's happy. So we got some pressure to move it earlier into the night, which we did, and it went fine, and we may do that again, we may not. But I will tell you this, when the men's open prejudging ended on Friday night, we had 2 divisions after that. A third of the building emptied out. I saw it. And when it emptied out, you felt the vibe in the room shifted in a way that I didn't really like. There are some competitors in those other divisions that I have tremendous respect for, and I want them to compete in a packed room. I want the room to be filled with that anticipation for what's to come. And so we made the concession and we did it so the athletes could come out earlier and they wouldn't have to wait. So we did it and everybody was happy, and that's fine. But I will tell you, the price we paid for that was about a third of the room emptied out after that portion of the evening ended. So on one hand, we accomplished one thing, but we also hurt ourselves in another way. Everything in production is a trade-off. And the critics, the pundits, the bloggers, the writers, they're all going to have something to say about it, the coaches, the athletes. But sometimes we have to make the hard call. And typically when I'm walking a line, and I have to decide which way I'm going to go with something, I'm going to go with the route that allows the event to grow, that allows the sport to grow, that allows us to be more successful. And with that success, it enables us to do more for the athletes. It enables us to do more on stage. It enables us to grow the sport throughout the year. Those resources directly impact that. So there's always going to be a challenge in making everybody happy. And this year, it was an interesting experiment. We tried that on Friday night. I'm glad you liked the way it went. I was talking to our head judge, Steve Weinberger. He said it was the greatest bodybuilding event he'd ever attended. I'm glad you mentioned the Bruce Buffer component. That was probably one of the most exciting openings we've ever had. The feedback from that was just off the charts. One after everybody loved Bruce Buffer. It was really fun to see him come out. Why? Because we wanted to mark our arrival in Las Vegas. We wanted to make the audience feel like Vegas was welcoming. And what more prominent Vegas-branded voice is there than the great Bruce Buffer? And we had a great time. A few months before the event, Jake and I were at UFC, I think it was UFC 303 in Vegas, and we had dinner with Bruce Buffer after the show, and or after the fights, and we teased the idea if he wanted to come in and do it, and we didn't think it was even possible, and he agreed to do it, and it was really fun to see the way the crowd responded.
Dan, I looked at all the judges. We're sitting there. We're serious. And the excitement of Bruce Buffer on stage was unmatched. And I talked to Steve afterwards, and he said, Terrick, we got to have Bruce Buffer emceeing the whole show. Get rid of that big guy over there. What's his name again? But I said, no, he's a friend of ours. He's the best. He's Bob Chick. We're going to keep him there. Now, Dan, I have a question.
I got to say, Bob does a great job. Bob's a tremendous MC, and as the person who oversees the event, I take great pride in having Bob Chick as my MC. So let's be very clear about that. Bruce Buffer is not a replacement for Bob Chick. Bruce came on to get the room excited, and he did a great job.
But as you guys know, it's my job to poke at Bob Ciccarello. That's how I've gained thousands and thousands of followers. Bob, we love you. You are the best at it, and I'm always going to poke on you. Now, transparency is important for you.
Sure.
You went to check-ins and you talked to the bodybuilders. Guys, I'm here. I'm the president. I take full accountability. This is what's going to happen. You don't need to be there until 9 p.m. Let's make this happen. When there's any issues, you go online and you talk to the fans. This is a tough choice because your face is out there and you're open to criticism. You're open to a lot of things. Why did you make this choice of putting your face out there and saying the Olympia is going to be transparent? I'm going to be friends with the competitors and with the fans.
You have to. The fans are smart now. The fans are really smart. They understand what's going on. It's almost like supplement companies, the way they've had to change their approach. When they sell products, the average consumer, they understand what's in a product. They understand how to read a label. The days of being able to put out a proprietary blend and not tell people what's in the product, those days are over. You can't really do that anymore. So it would be wildly disrespectful for me to not be transparent in that way. It's very important for us to let people in. And you know what? And that also touches on all elements of what we do professionally, personally. I'm wearing this hat right now, and I took to my own social media to put this out. I'm wearing this hat right now, guys, because a few weeks back, I went to a place and I had a hair transplant, all right? And I'm not embarrassed to admit that, because you want to know why? Because I had lunch a few weeks earlier with Chris Bumstead, and he was telling me his story about how he went down to Turkey and he had his done, and many of my friends, many of our friends have had this procedure, and over the years I watched my forehead continue to grow. And while I had a lot of hair on my head, I didn't like the way it looked. So I went ahead and I went down to the place and I met the guys, and we had a great time when they ended up doing it, which is why I'm wearing this funny hat. But it's all about transparency, because you know what? Some of my favorite bloggers, some of my favorite competitors, they're transparent too. We owe it to each other. The days of faking it just doesn't work anymore, because what's the point? And the more authentic we are, the more honest we are, the more constructive conversation we can have with the fans, with the competitors, with everybody involved in what we do. The more advocacy you build, the more truth you create. And I know you've adopted that policy as well. Look, we're all flawed, right? We're all flawed. None of us are perfect. We make mistakes. I've made choices at that Olympia that I wish I could have back in terms of things that I've done with the stage, things that I've done with lighting. One of the first meetings that I had when I was hired to do this job, we talked about wanting to create a rock concert environment. The idea behind this was, if you guys remember, for years, people would go to bodybuilding shows, even the Olympia. And by the way, the Olympia has been a great show for a long time, long before I got there. But people would often criticize the event for being boring. They would just say, once the show starts, it's boring. You'd look around and you'd see people dozing off, because at the end of the day, watching people hit compulsory poses sometimes can get boring. I've seen some ardent, serious bodybuilding fans doze off right in the middle of a prejudging of an Olympia. I've seen it. So I said, people might come and they might criticize the event. They can come and they can say they don't like who won. They can come and they can say they thought the music was too loud. But here's what they're never going to do at a show that I ever see. That is boring. They're never going to say that it's boring. That is not going to happen on my watch. So sometimes the price you pay for that is you take it a little too far. And I've done that. So you're constantly testing the boundaries of what you can do and what you can't do and what you shouldn't do. But that's what makes it fun. And that's what makes it come back each and every year. And I know Jake is always pushing us to push the envelope and to test the waters and to see how far we can go with it. And I will tell you this, I'm looking forward to the day that we can sell out an entire stadium, because I am convinced, I've seen the way you all out there buy tickets. I've seen how quickly the tickets go. We put our Olympia tickets on, and in 2.5 days, they were sold out. That's not hyperbole. That's not propaganda. That's not bullshit. That's real. Those tickets sold out in less than 3 days. I've seen the insatiable appetite bodybuilding fans have for the sport that they love. And I am convinced that we can grow the venue and sell out arenas and sell out stadiums, just like you turn on WrestleMania, and every year WrestleMania is held at a football stadium and they sell it all out. I think we could do that. Now, does bodybuilding lend itself to a stadium environment? Maybe not. But we're working so hard to raise the bar in terms of the number of people that follow our sport. Not just the experience, not just the production, but the popularity of it. It's the reason why we're making a movie about it, because bodybuilding has become so wildly fanatical around the world. There are countries which bodybuilding is the first or second most popular sport in that country. You travel the world, Terrick, I know you see it. So we really are trying to take advantage of the popularity and the impact the Olympia has around the world. And I'm convinced we can sell out a venue as big as we want. But for now, we're at Resorts World, which is a fantastic venue, a little smaller than I'd like, to be honest with you, but it enables us to do some really cool things.
Well, Dan, congratulations. You've done a tremendous job. These are some of the golden years of the Mr. Olympia, and being part of the operation, I can honestly say that you have a lot of credit in doing that. The Mr. Olympia was presented during COVID. You had tons of credit on that. And right now we're experiencing some of the best years of the Mr. Olympia. The 60th was iconic. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mr. Olympia 2025 is coming from Las Vegas, Nevada, from Resorts World. This is the official Mr. Olympia report with the president, Dan Solomon. Next episode, we'll bring the owner, Jake Wood, for the official Mr. Olympia report. My name is Terrick El-Guindy with the president, Dan Solomon. We'll see you next time.